What up? This is Dart Adams. Look for me on the new episode of Big Dookie Chain. Me, Tash, my man's Styles over here. One.
Big Dookie Chain. Van Styles here, Tash to my left, Hush behind the cameras. And in front of me, special invited guest, the fact checker of all fact checkers, a human hip-hop encyclopedia. Much more reliable than Wikipedia.
Yeah.
and he knows it.
Definitely.
Dart Adams, folks. Thank you for coming through.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you are much needed, as we were discussing on the ride here today, in hip hop, where there is just all sorts of erroneous bullshit being spouted out.
For people that might not, because you're someone in the hip hop world, like if you're in the hip hop world in Boston, you absolutely know who you are.
Yeah.
But if you're someone that isn't necessarily in the circle of hip hop in the world, in the Boston world, you might not know who you are because you're not an artist, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us like what you do? The people that might not know exactly what it is, what you do.
All right. So basically, I came in through two ways. One, I was an artist. I was an MC. I was part of a group, part of a collective back in like the 80s through the 90s.
Okay.
And then what happened was when the zeros came up, everything kind of switched. And I was always working. Like I always had a job. So I was either working at like Tower Records, Newberry Comics, CD Spins, like the movie theaters. I worked pretty much everywhere around Newberry Street and that whole stretch, right? So if there was a record store, I worked at Hip Zeppy for a while. So everybody knows me from like the 80s through like the late 90s, back in the underground rap space.
Okay.
But what other people know me for is being a journalist and a writer. I started going online back in 05 and I just started writing.
You were one of like the first.
Yeah.
Like you're like maybe the OG music blog guy. Like, like you might be one of the first, I mean, of anyone to do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what happened was, the blog era started in 2005. I don't care what anybody says. It started in 2005. But I was going on message boards. I was on OK Player. I was on the UK message boards. They had Rewind Forum. They had this place called The Census. I was on OK Player. I lurked on OK Player until somebody was talking shit about Boston. And then I made an account, shut them down. Then I was like, well, now I got to post. I was on All Hip Hop. And then you remember like the Rep the Bean, BostonRap.com.
Yeah. We were just talking about that shit the other with Ferone.
Yeah, so I was all over that back when I was Poisonous Dart, because I was stuck with the same thing as my like Poisonous Dart 75 at Hotmail was my thing. And back in the days, you didn't have the technology so you could change your password. So you had the same password everywhere. And to remember, if you're on 20 message boards, I'm Poisonous Dart 75 everywhere. Mm-hmm. So it made it easier. So like that's where I'm from. But I'm in the rap space because I wrote online everywhere. And the other thing is that most people know me as a journalist, and I'm writing for Boston Magazine, Boston Globe. You'll see me on WBUR doing stuff like that. I'll do panels and all this other stuff. So people, it's like a tale of two Bostons thing. Some people like, oh, that's Dart, and they're like, who? So it's this weird thing where like there's a space, a part of Boston that everybody knows me, and another part where people have no idea who the hell I am. Yeah,
man, you would think like journalism's almost like a dying art at this point in time. Like, okay, so we going back to like the 90s, early 2000s, right? You're jumping over into. I mean, I would assume that you know Dart as well from like the many. You say like you wrote about hip hop, but I mean it's more than that. It's this guy at the time. For anyone that might not know this, you couldn't go online and just get hip hop. Like it did not fucking exist. You had to go to specific websites that might have a message board, that might have an article. It was a very niche, small thing. You know what I mean? And he was one of the only people in the country, really, consistently writing about hip hop. Yeah, but that's like, it seems like nothing now, but at the time, it was just so like almost revolutionary. People must thought you were crazy. Like, why are you writing on a fucking computer box? It's not no one's gonna read this shit.
Yeah. I mean,
so what made you get into it? That's what I'm kind of just like, what made you even want to do that?
Necessity. So when we first get like the hip hop internet, we're talking about 97, 98, 99, when we have Sandbox Automatic, undergroundhiphop.com, hip hop site, all these other places, and later you get like you have all hip hop, you know, and like Nobody's Smiling, you know, SOHH, you know, the place with all the hip hop with the lyrics and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. Hip hop lyrical archive.
Yes.
Holy shit.
DSC, The Saga Continues, which
wow.
was a Wu-Tang website. But the Saga Continues was hilarious because if you went to DSC, as it was called, if you went to a certain space, they had all these downloadable MP3s of all these obscure Wu-Tang joints like Authorized Fam, The Orphanage, you know, all this other stuff.
Do you remember how long it took to download that shit?
Forever.
One song would take hour.
Yeah, like it shit took forever. Because the thing is that we're talking about we're talking about like 98, 99, back when you went online for a stretch of time, so the phone, you didn't get a phone call and you get knocked offline, or you had a printer set up, you printed the thing you went to. Like I would go to Sandbox Automatic, I would pull up a page, I would print it for all like the 12 inches and stuff like that, and then I would get offline and I would go outside. Now a lot of people don't know this, but like we didn't get to the point where we were online 24/7 until between 2001 and 2002, when people got like cable modems,
smartphones.
Well, this was even before that. So you had DSLs, you had like colleges had T1 lines and stuff like that. But if you weren't in college, you had to get like the DSL or the cable modem, and then you finally could be online 24/7. And then that's when LimeWire and Kazaa kicked off, where you could quite literally type in something you want to download and leave.
Yeah.
And come back, and now you have all this shit downloaded. And that's when you learned that people are stupid. So I remember back in the days, Common released a song called 1999, right? And like they used to say. But if you wanted to download that online, you had to write Common still. Because it goes still getting mine in the 199. So no one knew the title of the song, so they would write Common Sense. They write Common Sense Still. Mm-hmm. But you're looking for the actual title. And if you put in Common Sense Still, you would find 1999. And they would never credit Sadat X because they didn't even know who he was when he did his next verse.
This guy's getting so deep into like this rabbit hole of shit. Yeah, it's like it's just the way your mind works with hip hop. Yeah.
Because it has to. But like that's how I like ended up in this space, because online, you realize that there's micro generations, right? Every 3 to 5 years, someone comes in, someone goes. Like the average person gets into things and they discover, like, you develop your sense of self, you get your style and your taste between the age of 9 and 13 at first, right? That's when you first get into music. That's when you first discover who you are. That's when you first start getting into fashion. Early adopters. Most people get in later. So they have like really no recollection of what the fuck happened before they were 13 or 14, in my experience. But when you're an early adopter, and here's the thing, I was a little kid with a big brother who was 6 years older than me and a big sister who was 9 years older than me. And I had cousins that were 10, 12 years older than me. So I was a little kid that was dragged around everywhere. So I became a sponge. So even though I'm born in 1975, my memories of music and culture and what was happening in Boston start back in 1978, 79. So that made me a unique case. There were no fucking 3, 4, 5-year-old Prince fans. Yeah. You know, except for maybe me and a small percentage of other people. And when you were 3 or 4, you should have no idea who Arthur Baker is, you know?
You're just making me think of, like, I wonder, because I grew up like that. Mm-hmm. And you just made me realize, like, holy shit, that's why I was such an early adopter on the music and stuff, because I was someone that was like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old Michael Jackson, Prince fan, all that shit. Like, because my mother was young when she had me. So same shit. Yeah. But you just opened that up to me right there.
Yeah. So when you're in that space, you become a natural, like, sponge, and that means that you're going to be lent to wanting to know history, wanting to understand context, because you're the little kid always asking the older kids questions. What the hell is this? Where did this come from? I was the little kid who was watching, and here's the other thing too, when you're a Gen Xer, right? I was born in 75, but when I watched TV, I came up in the era of the black and white TV. I came up in the era of the rotary phone with the awnings on the store. So that meant that I would be watching TV, and this is the time where Boston had like 9 channels, you know? Yeah. 4, 5, 7, 10 came in fuzzy, and then 25, 38, 56, 64, 68. Yeah. So you had the VHF and then the UHF. stop turning the goddamn TV so fast, right?
No one knows what the fuck you're even talking about.
Yeah,
yeah, but Hush, do you even know what he's talking about right now? He's in his 30s.
Oh,
he has no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
So like this is when Boston culture it becomes Boston culture, because we're around the TV for Channel 25, Creature Double Feature, Kung Fu Theater,
the Movie Loft.
Dana Carv, whatever his name was, with the Movie Loft. This is where we first start seeing the Warriors every year, the same time of year, because they played on the Movie Loft. This is when the summer, when they switch over, and all of a sudden now you're watching the Monkeys and Gidget. You know, all the fucking Beach Blanket Bingo movies come on. So these are unique things to Boston culture, right? And when you're a kid growing up, you have all these things, plus you have the Kite Festival, plus you have the Maury Starr's Hollywood talent shows, you know? So when I was a kid growing up, I got to experience all these things, including like DJs having records early from Skippy White's, you know, from wherever they went to, going to Dudley Square at the time, down Dudley, Doobie and Notion. So I was a little kid that would see people come back with the first rap records and play the first rap records. So I remember like the week of the day to the week where the Fatback Band put out a single. It was called You're My Candy Sweet. The B-side was King Tim III, Personality Jock. That's the first rap record.
I was going to say, yeah.
Spring 79. And when more rap records start coming out, people start getting mad. Because they were like, yo, this is going to kill this. Taking it out the park. Because if you were from Boston, Massachusetts, what have you, if you had cousins in New York or in the tri-state area around Connecticut, what have you, they would send you tapes. They would send you tapes of jams and clashes, and you would hear rap that way. It shit wasn't on records yet.
Yeah, it wasn't even on records yet.
Yeah. So when you first saw records, people were scared that rap was about to be over because it's on record.
See, it's so crazy. I don't want to get off topic with that, but we have someone that is under 40. He's like 33 years old. Mm-hmm. And like, you don't even realize how this all happened in one fucking generation.
Yeah.
This all all from like what he's talking about for it not existing to where you are has all happened in one fucking generation. Mm-hmm. That's crazy when you think about that.
Yeah.
And during that time, also, there was the advent of the big Dookie chain, which I'm just realizing we haven't laced you up with darts, so you're like practically naked over there without this.
So here's what's hilarious too, like with the chain, right? So I'm gonna explain something before I put it on.
I know you are. Always anything can come with an explanation.
So here's the thing, right? You couldn't rock one of these if you didn't have status, if you didn't have respect, if you weren't a thorough person. You couldn't walk around with a fucking chain on like this. Herringbone, forget about it. That shit would get popped off your neck and you get knocked out. You just be laid on the street bleeding. And if you woke up with sneakers, God bless you, because people were nice to you. But like, you didn't find cats with like these around. And also the other part was that they were the full thick joints, and then they were the hollow joints. And people would test you, like try to bang it against your chest, or they come touch it. They send a girl, oh, look at this. And then she'd look over like, it's fake, you know? So like, you had to have some type of status.
Who do you remember? What's your memory of the first seeing the Dookie chain on somebody?
So the first time I saw them, so it's beauty of Boston. Is Boston. I grew up in the South End, Lower Roxbury, which was pretty much the bottom bitch of the drug trade in Boston at the time. So Boston, my neighborhood was flush with all the drug dealers, and the drug trade was just big in South End, Lower Roxbury, all through Roxbury. So the drug dealers with the most money were usually either along my stretch of Mass Ave, Columbus Ave, Tremont, and then there was a congregation of them and what we called MPV, which is Madison Park Village. And I have to tell you, so much money was being made around Madison Park Village to the point where when you go down that street, that side street, and then you pull up, and so there's a racetrack where people practice at Madison Park. You would come up that hill and get on that racetrack. Everybody would be hanging out. You hear music, and also all up and down there, the Madison Park Village, the houses, people be playing music outside the windows. And it's kind of funny because I felt like they had to like have a meeting about who's gonna play what on what side so the music doesn't clash. But you would come up there and you would just see drug dealers parked, cars, and these are 16, 17-year-olds, you know, and there were just cars everywhere, just parked haphazardly, and people would just be hanging out front, just chilling with like full Adidas tracksuits, brand new Adidas, you know, just like hanging out with girls and everything else. And that's when I first saw dudes wearing these type of chains. And then the next time I saw it was like on rap album covers, you know, and posters and stuff like that. And you gotta keep in mind, the first magazines that really covered rap weren't really official, you know. It was some glossy bullshit. So when you think about Word Up,
yeah, I know, I was just thinking, you know, Word Up,
Rap magazine. Masters, you know, stuff like that. Those magazines sucked. Occasionally you saw a rapper in black and like,
but they would have the fold out poster.
Yes, glossy fold out poster. In like Black Beat, occasionally you would see Eric B and Rakim, or you see Dougie Fresh or somebody. So like you'd see these pictures, but like when you saw the article, it was never in depth.
Yeah.
It never went deep. It was always some really surface, fluffy, like fluff shit. And I was just like, could somebody please treat these people like actual artists and ask them actual questions? And we didn't get that till The Source.
Yeah, and The Source was started at Harvard.
Yeah,
with Dave Mays.
Harvard dorm.
Yeah, so what was your like introduction to The Source? Or you've probably run into Dave Mays a lot of different times throughout your.
Never ran into Dave Mays
really?
Once.
Wow.
But the first time I ever got The Source was hilarious because the last thing I did, I went to Boston Latin School, then got expurgated. But when I went to Boston Latin School for 6 a year, in summer '88, me and my boy Gabriel Centron, wherever you are, shout out to Gabriel Centron, we did our final report for English class on rap. And in order to do it, I had to ask my big brother Dave, who used to go to Skippy White's, which was at 410 Mass Ave at the time. And there was a big, tall black dude with an afro and shades used to wear indoors. I think his name was Jerome. Someone fact checked me on that. And he used to recommend tapes. So my brother would like, yo, what should I get? And he would point to something. And then one day, that dude recommended Funkmaster Wizard Wiz, Bellevue Patient. And my brother brought it home. It's like, this shit is trash. I'm never asking him anything again. So we would just buy tapes because my brother had a job, got paid a full $335, $350 an hour, you know. And you have to remember that a tape had to be dope because one, I'm spending $8.99 for it at Skippy White's plus taxes $9.44, and it's cost
these numbers. This shit, this is insane.
This shit costs more than 2 hours of my work, so it has to be dope. But I had to ask my big brother Dave. I was like, yo, could I borrow some of your tapes so I could do a presentation about rap? And he was like, okay. I was like, it's gonna be Miss Carter's class. It's gonna be this. I'm gonna put them in my bag and bring them right back to you.
Yeah.
So I borrowed like what had just recently come out. Oh, BDP's Necessary. I borrowed like MC Light's first album, you know, Light as a Rock, like all these albums, some joints from '87, Boogie Down Productions' first album, you know.
So like half of the albums that were out at the time.
Yeah, some of the ones that were new, and then some joints from '86, '87 that he wouldn't be pissed off that I took.
But you're talking about a time when there was only like maybe 50 rap albums out.
So that's the other thing. So I do that presentation. We get an A. So
Congrats.
My teacher comes to me and she says, one day you could actually be a journalist and write about rap music. And I'm like, that's not a thing. Because there were only like 5 dudes that wrote about rap, and they did it for like different publications. Like occasionally they got to do something for Rolling Stone, but usually it was for like New York magazines, publications that no longer exist. Like, I can't even remember the name of the joint, but like it doesn't exist anymore. But I was just like, all right, whatever, because it was pretty much like 5 guys that did all the rap writing. Fast forward a couple of months later, my brother and I go to Skippy White's, which was at 410 Mass Ave. We go in there, and homie hands us this yellow sheet. It's a buying guide, and it says The Source. And I'm looking at it, I'm reading, and I realize that it's made by the guys who do the Street Beat show on WHRB at Harvard. you know, Jada Sultan and Go Go Dave, you know, but they had Def Jeff was the DJ, so like that instantly gave him credibility, because the other show was, you know, the show that they used to do at MIT, Lecco's Lemma.
Yeah.
And Lecco's Lemma had to move eventually. They moved to BC, so they were at WZBC.
Which is another crazy thing, because now you're talking about the beginning of hip hop on radio.
Yeah.
And that's almost done now already.
Yeah.
Like that went through a whole in one generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fucking wild when you really think about that.
Yeah. So I'm reading it and I'm looking and I'm like, they wrote about the battle for world supremacy and like the new music seminar. I was like, they went to the new music seminar. And I'm reading this and it's like it has ads for like Mattapan music and other things, and I'm just like, oh shit. And that's when I realized, yo, maybe somebody will finally write about rap. And then the second issue of The Source comes out, I think it was October 88. And then the first issue of The Source as we know it comes out in like early springish 1989, where it's an actual magazine. And that's when I first read that. I was like, yo.
That's when the light bulb went off.
Yeah, yo, there can actually be rap journalism. And so that was my first thing with The Source. And like The Source was pretty much, for me, it was a Boston thing, because I didn't know what the circulation was, you know, past, you know, Massachusetts. To me, it was kind of in the same boat as fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic books. Between 84 and 86, the only people that had that were like art students and art nerds and writers, you know, in Boston and maybe out in Massachusetts between 84 and 86. And then like it got picked up later by like New England Comics and Newberry Comics. And then it exploded. And then like, I think it was probably maybe 1989 before I realized that The Source was something that more people read outside of New England.
Hush, do you even remember The Source?
I mean, it was a little before my time. I was born
That's
in 1989.
crazy, right?
I mean,
Like,
I know.
It was
The Source.
such a big deal.
By the time I was around The Source, it was already like out of its glory.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and The Source was like such a big fucking deal. Like, without The Source, I don't know how big hip hop. Well, Yo MTV Raps and The Source were like the fucking the lifeblood of hip hop.
Well,
essentially,
the things that really blew it up were, you know, when Yo MTV Raps started doing the Saturday
night shows with Fat Five Freddy.
show with Fat Five
10
Freddy.
p.m. babe.
And that shit started in June 1988. That's when they did the first joint, while Run DMC was on tour. And well, maybe it was August. It was August 88. It was August 88.
Was Run DMC the first national touring act in hip hop?
So really, the first big national tour was the Fresh Fest. The Fresh Fest was the first big tour. So you have Run DMC, the Fat Boys end up winning the competition. So you have UTFO were dancers on that tour. So you have Houdini on that tour. The first one was Jam On It. So what's the hell's the name of that group? Wiki. Well, whoever the hell they were on that tour, and the Fat Boys won a contest to be on that tour. So that was like the Fresh Fest in '84. So that was like the first big touring act.
Okay.
Where like you had multiple rap acts going, and then Run DMC, of course, you know, they go gold. Houdini goes gold. Fat Boys go gold.
And they know it's lucrative now.
Yeah.
What was the second publication that came out after The Source that featured hip hop?
It was Rap Pages.
Okay, yeah.
So pretty much what happened was the dude, was it Hustler Magazine? The guy who did Hustler Magazine, Larry Flint. Larry Flint decided to get into publishing, and I think he's the guy who put the money behind publishing Rap Pages.
Oh, wow.
And Rap Pages came out maybe 89 going into 90, and like they started like being the West Coast version of The Source, because the people that used to complain about The Source was that The Source had an East Coast bias.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it did. And Rap Pages kind of covered the West Coast aspect of things. You know, like it's lucky that the Rap Pages came around, because they had people on the cover that would not have gotten on the cover of The Source, and it forced The Source to rethink who was on their cover. You know, because the beauty of rap publications back in the days is that the letters, you know, that the column, the letter column.
Mm-hmm.
you would just see people sound off on stuff, and it's like immediately tell you where you fucked up. You shouldn't have put Luke Campbell on the cover, you know?
Yeah. I remember, yeah. Always about whatever the cover was, for sure.
That was a big deal.
So, like, you've obviously been in hip-hop since the inception of it, right?
Yeah.
And at a in-depth level.
Mm-hmm.
When going from the first time, like, hip-hop isn't even in a magazine yet to where it is now, when do you think it turned? Like, what's the moment that you can say that it turned? Like, holy shit, this is going to be like a global thing.
Okay, to me, it's 3 parts. It's a three-part.
Okay.
All right? Now, we talked about rap records first coming out in 79, but the first big rap record is Rapper's Delight, drops October 1979. At the time Rapper's Delight drops, Prince had just come out with, his second album, and so he's everywhere, and then Rapper's Delight comes out, and I knew something was different because rap songs were really long back in the day. And WRBB, which was our local station, WRBB, Boston, at Northeastern University, was like the radio station that picked it up after WILD went off the air, because WILD used to go off the air after the sun went down. I promise you this was a real thing. So when I start hearing Rapper's Delight in full on WILD and WRBB, I was like, oh, they're not cutting it off. They're not playing. There's no short version. They're not cut into another song in a mix. I'm like, okay. And I'm a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm 4.
You're early on with this shit.
Yeah.
If you think
4.
I'm 4, and I know something's up, because I can read. So I'm one of those kids too. Like, the DJs used to have fun with me. They used to be like, hey, little man, come over here. And they used to show me the record, because they were mind blown that a kid could read, one, and read as fast as I could and remember stuff. So they would see me, hey, little man, what was that record I showed you? It was the one with Mr. Policeman by Rick James, right? Yeah. And you played me the other record with this and this on it, right? Yeah. It's like, so I would remember stuff. So the first turn was 1, Rapper's Delight blowing up. And Rapper's Delight being to the point where people would come to a Skippy White's or to a Strawberries or to a Nubian Notion in Dudley Square at the time, and they would just have the boxes open, ready to sell it to people, because we don't have enough time to put this shit in a display and have somebody go over and bring it over to the counter, and we don't have enough time to tag the price on it.
But
like,
in fairness, though, it wasn't like we weren't hitting global yet, though. I remember even in the 90s, people were still calling it a fad, and I was still a wigger, and it wasn't going to like last, and it was rap crap, and you either listen to rock and roll or you listen to rap.
Now we're getting to the third piece.
Okay. My fault.
So that's the first piece. 79-80, when Rapper's Delight crosses over and actually ends up on like the actual charts, the Hot 100.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like people are acknowledging it on the news.
Okay.
And people are making satirical versions of it and talking about rap. White folks were talking about rap. That's when I was like, oh, okay. That's the first part. The second part, we're coming up on the 40th anniversary of the first rap movies in Hollywood. So you're talking about Beat Street, talking about Breakin' 2, Body Rock, that horrible-ass movie. So watching TV and seeing, oh, shit, Graffiti Rock is on. Graffiti Rock is coming on at like 9 o'clock at night. And it's the last day of school, and you go, yo, did y'all see Graffiti Rock? And then there was another thing called The Pilot. I think it was September 84. And so that's when I realized, and then they had B-boys at the Olympics. And I was just like, in these day-glow-ass outfits like in Breakin'. And that's when the second thing, when I was like, in Newsweek. There was a B-boy who was in Beat Street on the cover of Newsweek. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, wow. And this is when you start watching cartoons, and like you would watch cartoons, you watch commercials. They did a Hershey's commercial with people breakdancing. You would watch fucking what was it? Different Strokes, and Sam, the white kid, would start like fucking breakdancing and going to the floor. And then you see Alfonso Ribeiro pop locking on silver spoons. Like, that's when I knew the second time. Oh shit. The third part, 89 going into 1990. you had a whole bunch of rap songs, because rap was relegated to being played at night. It's not real music. It's trash.
Yep.
Sampling is stealing.
Yep.
This is noise.
Rap is crap.
Rap is crap. We're not playing it on the radio, or we're only playing it at night. So we're playing it only at the time when meth-addicted vampires are up, right? Like radio shows would play rap like midnight.
I don't know if you know in the suburbs, right? Like so, in my school, you either listen to hip hop or you listen to rock.
Yeah.
You did not listen to both.
See, that's wild.
There was nobody listened to no one. People would fight, like legit brawl, like getting actual fist fights physically over like fuck that music. The same way people would do about races and shit. Like
I mean, because I remember when Dookie by Green Day came out. I think the same day as Cypress Hill's Black Sunday, and it was either you were a Dookie fan or you were getting Black Sunday.
Wow. See, that's crazy.
Which is crazy,
but
they're almost the
you
same. Because Green Day and Cypress Hill are fucking pretty close to almost the same fucking thing. You know,
it's weird to me.
I don't know if it was the same day.
Around there,
yeah.
But like to me, the late '80s was when. Okay, so another thing about my neighborhood.
Man, but seriously, in the '90s though, you didn't like you. I don't know if it was like in the city because I was in the suburbs.
Yeah.
But in the suburbs, you either listen to because I was called a wigger for listening to rap music.
100%.
See, that's weird because I'll say between around '89ish, the first kids I know that were listening to rap and rock were skater kids.
Skater kids, yeah.
Skater kids, and the thing is, in my neighborhood, South End, Lower Roxbury, going into Roxbury, the skate kids would come from all over, all the different towns to skate in my neighborhood. So I knew all the skate kids because I would see them at every park in the Southwest Corridor Park. I see them at Copley Square. I see them everywhere around Newberry Street. So those were the first kids who I knew that were listening to rap and rock. And then also like the skate videos at the time, Animal Chin, what do you call it? Future Primitive, all that stuff. That's when they started playing both rap songs and rock in the skate videos. But I think that outside of that culture, it was still like you had to pick a side.
Yeah, the first time I remember seeing white kids rocking hip hop shit were snowboarders rocking Wu-Tang shirts.
It was the Wu-Tang Rage Against the Machine tour.
Oh,
that brought
yes.
everybody together. Like
which had that Rolling Stone issue with RZA and Zach De La Rocha on the cover.
Because I feel who did it first was Public Enemy when they would go with
Bring the Noise
when
Anthrax.
with Anthrax.
But it wasn't there yet because like Rage was like in like suburbia. I was on hip hop. Like I bought Boogie Down Productions, The Blueprint, when I was like fucking 10 years old. Like I was on that shit early, but no one else was on that shit. So like, but Rage was so close to hip hop. It like Limp Bizkit was out at that time. Like it was Method Man, some shit with it. Like it was starting to cross those kids over.
The new metal era.
That's what did it. That Rage Against the Rage Against the Machine Wu-Tang tour that finally got all those people together into mosh pits. That's what did it.
That's crazy because I felt like that happened
right.
multiple times because around the time where you're talking about Biohazard.
Beastie Boys Licensed to Ill.
Well, Biohazard Onyx.
Oh, yeah, the Judgment Day.
My school, when I graduated, I probably had, I don't know, like 15, 20 black kids out of like 400.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now it's like around 100 to 200. Like it's almost half and half now. But like at the time, I graduated in 98. Okay. At that time, I sat at the black table and I fucking like hung out with the black kids.
Oh, you were at the black table?
Yeah, I was. And it was like it was still that shit.
Okay.
Heavily that shit. And that Rage tour wasn't probably till about 2000, 2001.
See, that's crazy because I saw that whole thing happen probably between 89 and 93.
Because the city forces that shit to happen beforehand. Yeah, there was no... Hip-hop had to infiltrate white culture and society for that to happen.
They were that resistant in the suburbs? Damn. But
aren't they still? Fuck.
But like when I knew it was over was 89 going into 90 when MC Hammer blew up and crossed over. Then Vanilla Ice blew up and crossed over. And then Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch put out Good Vibrations, and it didn't go on the rap charts. It went straight to the pop charts. And I'm seeing it on MTV, but not on Yo MTV Raps. And basically, throughout 89, we had songs that almost hit number one. Like, if you look at, like, Funky Cole Medina and Wild Thing, those almost hit number one. You know? If you look at, like, Me, Myself, and I, it had a shot at crossing over and hitting number one. But by the time we get to 1990, everybody knows this is the year a rap song is going to hit #1 on the Hot 100.
Wait, and what hit it?
The first thing to hit it was unfortunately Vanilla Ice.
Ice Baby. Yeah.
But like when you look back and you see like Biz Markie, you know, Just a Friend, all these songs almost did it. But the thing that kept it from happening was one, black radio wouldn't report all of its charts and stuff like that.
Well, they didn't even have SKUs or UPCs on.
Not necessarily because they weren't going by SoundScan yet.
Yeah.
And the third part was that black radio had to support it overwhelmingly for it to help out when it got played on top 40 radio. Because it wasn't getting played on rock radio. It was getting played on top 40 radio. So certain songs would get airplay, but if black radio wasn't supporting rap, it's never going to hit #1.
It's crazy that you're saying this because right now, hip-hop, I mean, country's coming, but like hip-hop right now rules the globe. Like hip-hop culture has for 20 years
Which
now.
was unthinkable when we were being referred to as
talking
wiggers.
About, they don't even do fucking spin. We weren't taking fucking SoundScan spins yet in this shit.
Yeah.
And now you literally can't go to the fucking middle of the Sahara Desert without someone wearing some Timbs and a Wu-Tang fucking logo on their shirt.
It's out of control.
You know,
I remember my introduction to hip-hop that I remember is probably before this, but my sister at a dance recital dancing to Too Legit to Quit. And I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
And being like, this is amazing. This is the best thing I've ever heard.
That's hilarious because I actually have that vinyl. I have that vinyl from when somebody gave me the promo as a joke in school, the vinyl. And I still have it. And I was just like, Too Legit to Quit.
Do you remember, were they making fun? When did they start making fun of MC Hammer? Right from the jump, or was it later?
Okay. I love this topic of conversation.
Okay.
So
I didn't even know this was a topic of conversation.
No. MC Hammer is absolutely a topic of conversation.
Because I was just thinking of the they were doing like flashbacks to Tupac, like talking trash, right?
Yeah. But here's the thing, right? When MC Hammer first got signed to his Capitol deal, right? And he put out Pump It Up, Here's the News, and in the video he's dissing Run DMC. Like that song got burned on the radio. People loved the video. People weren't making fun of Hammer yet. Turn This Mother Out. But you not hitting in New York, Hammer. I'm going to turn this mother out. Because he was making dance music.
Yeah.
And when you saw him live performing
dancing,
on TV,
right?
dancing
Baggy,
and going.
The Hammer Pants.
He had 2 DJs. He had a full crew.
Did he have the Hammer Pants then?
A version of them.
Okay.
But not the version. Like, everything went on steroids.
Yeah.
By the time we get to the second album. So the first album.
Yeah. Hammer, Please Don't Hurt Him.
No, Let's Get It Started.
Oh, Let's Get It Started.
This is 88 going into 89. MC Hammer has hit after hit after hit after hit. Turn This Mother Out. All this other shit. But like the videos are big on Yo MTV Raps. The videos are being played on BET. The songs are being played on the radio to the point where when we get to the January 1989 American Music Awards, this dude beats Eazy-E and Tone Loc in each category, each rap category. MC Hammer.
Yeah.
Well, he was one of the first like acts that like white America like absolutely got behind.
Well, I mean,
like you said, dance music.
It was behind like DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. But parents just don't understand.
But Hammer was so much more friendly than that. Like Jazzy Jeff paid that wave so Hammer could do that. Like you know what I'm saying? Without like Hammer was just so Disney. Like that version when you get to that second album and he's fucking the pants are out here and the chains and the glasses and shit. Like now you're a fucking caricature. He's got the cartoons and shit and it's just like it's a whole different fucking thing.
Yeah, but here's the thing too, because people think You Can't Touch This was the first single. It wasn't. He put out a joint called Help the Children. And nobody remembers that shit was out. Because what happened was, that's coming out, whatever happens. Then when the album comes out, people are going to the album and they're just playing You Can't Touch This in the club. They're playing You Can't Touch This at the party. Dancing Machine was supposed to be the second single.
Huh.
So they have Dancing Machine, Capitol Records is Dancing Machine about to press it. And then these Billboard charts come out. And in the club dance charts, you see a breakout, and it's You Can't Touch This. And You Can't Touch This isn't a single. So they call up the office like, yo, y'all know that a song that's not a single is gonna be charted in Billboard because they play it so much in a club that they have to report it.
Yeah.
But they can't have it chart because legally they can't. It's not a thing. So they say, stop the presses. And they put out You Can't Touch This. They rush Hammer to make a video. And then everything fucking explodes.
You
from
Can't
there.
Touch This was that extremely long video, right? With the intro that's like.
Well, no, they did another version of it.
Oh, okay.
They did another version, but the original version, You Can't Touch This, it starts out with him winning the American Music Awards. All right,
Yeah.
Winning those 2 American Music Awards. So when that happens, he blows up, and he's everywhere. And then he starts doing he takes the BK, the British Knights endorsement deal, which Kumo D had first. He starts.
So that's the first shoe to like be hip hop.
No, far from it. Run DMC
Adidas?
put out
Yeah.
They had Adidas. They had their own Adidas, you know. But like, and then of course you had the Bally's, which were Dougie Freshes, and then Fila's. You know, everybody else was rocking Fila's and shit. So but the British Knights endorsement deal, that's the first thing.
What year are we at?
We're at 1990.
Okay.
We're going in 1990. So we got that, and then all of a sudden you got the KFC popcorn chicken deal. You know,
MC Hammer, I think, had like every fucking deal on the planet.
Yes.
Right.
At the same time. Pepsi was huge with him
yes,
too.
Pepsi. Now, remind you, MC Hammer wasn't first to do this because Sprite had Curtis Blow, and then they had all these other rappers, and then at the time you had Run DMC had Coke.
But even then, hip hop still wasn't like global yet. Like it
was definitely global. It was definitely
but not
global.
like it is now.
Not like it is now, but it was definitely global.
Like babies know fucking rap now. Like your grandmother knows fucking rap.
Yeah,
you know what
but
I mean?
it was definitely global. Like you had Young MC was doing commercials for Taco Bell.
Wait, so when was the first time it went global? What did it go global with?
It went global. I'll keep it a buck.
Ice
It
Ice
went
Baby.
global between 1983 and 1984 when they did the New York rap tours. What brought rap internationally was first it started with Planet Rock. Planet
Okay.
Rock comes out, it blows up overseas.
Fitting
And
that
then,
it's called Planet Rock.
Yep. And then right after they put out Wild Style and Style Wars in '83, overseas they were clamoring for this culture. So Ruza Blue, aka Lady Blue, who is a manager for a whole bunch of people, including I think at the time maybe Rocksteady Crew, and Michael Holman was manager for what was their name? The other B-boy crew that battled them in Beat Street.
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
So I'm talking about
you're going back.
So I'm talking about Powerful Pexter and Mr. Wave, all those guys, right? So they put together the New York City rap tour, and they went overseas. They brought graffiti artists. They brought DJs, they brought MCs, and they went over. First, they went to Europe. They went all throughout Europe. Then they did another wave. They did all throughout Asia. So between 1983 and 1984, and first when they went, they brought Wild Style and Style Wars. Then the next wave, you have Wild Style, Style Wars, you have Beat Street, you have Breakin'. And Beat Street and Breakin' open in all those theaters. And after 1985, it's global already.
Yeah, but
It's international already.
I think we're disagreeing with the term global because I mean, had it been around the globe at that point by somebody, yeah, I get that. But do grandmothers in fucking Egypt know what Wu-Tang Clan is? They do now.
See, that's when there's a difference between global and then global saturation.
But however, that's what I'm talking about. When hip hop finally like that what's it called when the fucking
Got
break,
in the pocket where
the breaking point comes where it's all like it's now it's just it's tipped over.
Okay, so now you're talking about 97, 98.
Somewhere around there.
This is the tipping point.
This
The tipping point,
yes,
the saturation tipping point. And that happened specifically because between 97 and 98, it's rap and country. Rap and country
Still is.
for being the best-selling
Well,
genre
now
of music.
they're becoming one
Yeah,
of the same.
the best-selling genre of music. In 1998, rap surpassed country as the top-selling genre of music.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in 1999, it kind of like sunned it. So this is when just 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is when
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, this is when it's over. This is when
and it's remained on top.
Eminem isn't a thing yet. This is before Dr. Dre. It's like that era right there. The Chronic.
So this is when it gets really weird, right? Because if you want to think about it in these terms, you would watch TRL back in like 98, and it would be in sync. You know, it would be 98 Degrees. It'd be Backstreet Boys. 99, you watch TRL, you're gonna see Jay-Z.
That's
when you're gonna see
Ja Rule. Eminem comes out with "Hi, My Name Is." That was like
you're gonna see DMX.
Yeah.
You're going to see fucking.
I feel like it's somewhere in between that era,
Juvenile
and 50 Cent.
Oh yeah,
Wayne.
back that ass up. And all that. Yeah.
Like that to 50 Cent, like that era you're talking right there. That's when, like, by the time you get to 50 Cent from that era, it's fucking like.
And 50 Cent wasn't until 2001.
People's mothers are buying concert tickets to go see these people now.
That In the Club came out.
Well, no, that's 2003.
2003.
Oreo Cookies has a fucking commercial with like 50 cents in it and fucking Ja Rule's, that kind of shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that type of saturation didn't happen until 2003, 2004.
That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
When we're talking about like Jay-Z and 50 Cent are putting out sneakers with fucking Reebok.
Competing sneakers with Reebok.
Yeah, competing sneakers with Reebok that sold out.
They're coming back out, you know that?
Yeah, I figure it's 20th anniversary.
Well, because Shaq bought Reebok. He put Allen Iverson's the vice president of Reebok now. They just got in talks with 50 Cent and Jay-Z to bring back both of those sneakers.
Money talks, man.
Dope. I think it's kind of dope.
It is, but
I mean,
like,
G-Unit's not even a thing anymore. So like,
it's just still.
I do think that it's a beautiful thing, considering that, like, how old are the people that remember the G-Unit tank tops that started here and ended here and showed your whole nipple?
They
you know,
because
the G-Unit tank top had a very specific cut for 50 Cent, and no one else. It looked right on no one else. That's why they stopped making them.
Oh, that's so funny.
Like, go back, if you Google an image of the G-Unit tank top, you'll see 50 Cent wearing it. It's like, it looks great on him. He looks like a superhero, a comic book character.
Have you ever worn any G-Unit, Dart?
Absolutely not.
Have you ever worn any Wu Wear?
No.
Okay.
No.
How instrumental was Totally Crossed Out by Criss Cross?
Okay, so let's. Okay. This is another topic we could talk about. Okay. Fucking Criss Cross.
Okay.
Who's familiar with the Kid Rap Wars?
The Kid Rap Wars?
Yeah.
Not.
Oh shit, this is fun then.
Yeah.
So
school us.
Here's what happened. Criss Cross, though, if you remember when Criss Cross came out with Jump, right? Don't try to compare us to a little sad little fad. It's the Mac is bad and it's something that you never had. He's dissing another bad creation.
Okay.
Because Criss Cross wore their clothes backwards. And they try to say that they were the originators of the style. They weren't.
They weren't.
The originators of the style was Belle Biv DeVoe.
Oh.
Belle Biv DeVoe came out with something called the mental style.
Boston,
and the mental style meant you put shit on backwards,
Ronnie DeVoe,
inside out, upside down. You could wear two different sneakers, two different colors.
That was Ronnie DeVoe
one
too.
boot, one sneaker.
Huh.
You could keep the tag on your starter hat.
So this started in Boston.
Yeah, well, it started with Boston guys.
Belle Biv DeVoe.
Yeah, Belle Biv DeVoe. Now, when Biv had Biv Entertainment, before it was Biv 10, he had groups. Another Bad Creation, Boys to Men, and I think Sudden Impact, and they became White Guys. And, like, that's a whole nother story. But Another Bad Creation were from Atlanta. So when they did their shows, when they did their showcases out in Atlanta, they dressed like part of the East Coast family, wearing the mental style. So sometimes they would have their shit on backwards or crisscross or inside out. And crisscross, now here's the other part. Jermaine Dupri, his teeth look like that because he's a big biter. Okay? So Jermaine Dupri claims to have seen crisscross in the mall in Atlanta, girls going crazy over them, and they were rocking their shit backwards. He was like, oh, that's a style. I got to put them down. So if you see the JV and the Straight Jackets video, The Other Guy, which Jermaine Dupri produced for him when they were on Rap Ichiban, which is a Atlanta, Georgia independent label. You'll see a young crisscross in that video. I think it's 1991. If you listen to the song Little Boys in the Hood, that's their first demo. But he saw them in the mall and was like, yeah, I'm going to do something with them. Their names were Chris. One light skinned, one dark skinned kid, and I'm gonna call them Criss Cross because they wear that shit backwards. Here's the thing though. Jermaine Dupri saw both their names were Chris, and he immediately flashed back to Kid and Play. Kid and Play is a dark-skinned dude, light-skinned dude, both named Chris. One dude gets the girls, the other dude writes the rhymes. Okay? And they both dance. Now, Jermaine Dupri, if you don't already know, already had an in with Joe Nicolo at Rough House Records in Philly. He had a group called Silk Times Leather. It was basically his version of Salt and Pepper. Light-skinned girl, dark-skinned girl, girl DJ. Silk, leather, salt, pepper. And that meant that would have been the second group that he was biting their style from Herbie Lovebug. So we'll skip ahead. So when they put this song out, now the story around the campfire is that Tretch wrote the rhymes for Jump.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jump blows up, another Bad Creation feels like, oh, we gotta retaliate. But at the same time, you got Chi Ali who's coming out from the native tongues, under like Drez and De La Soul and everybody else, and so he throws his hat in the ring. So there's this back and forth between all these kid rap groups, the youngsters, and
Rotten Rascals.
No, the Rotten Rascals they were much older.
I was thinking of Naughty by Nature. Illegal, yeah.
Yeah. So Illegal enters the game. Now Illegal's also from Atlanta, but here's the thing about Illegal: one of them was from Philly, and the other one was from Cali. So you have Malik and Jamal, right? One of them was down with Naughty by Nature, and the other one was down with the Dog Pound. But they're under Dallas Austin, who is the guy who really set a lot of things off in rap for Atlanta before Jermaine Dupri. He had Rowdy Records before Jermaine Dupri got So Def. He had DARP Studios, which is when Eric Sermon left New York after EPMD broke up. He moved to Atlanta. I think he owned Peachtree Motoring or something like that, a place that did rims and shit. But he was pretty much living in Dallas Austin studio when he got his deal with Def Jam to put out his first album, right? So he's producing for Illegal. So Illegal puts out Head of Gut, where they go at Criss Cross, who are also from Atlanta, but they didn't have crew. They go at like the youngsters. They go at Chi Ali. So when Illegal first performs Head of Gut, believe it or not, this is a true story. Off to the side of the stage is this is crazy to think about it. Chi Ali, Drez, the Legion. I don't know if you know who they are.
Yeah, I remember.
All these dudes are trying to rush the stage while they're doing Head of Gut, while they're dissing Chi Ali.
Uh-huh.
So there was this huge kid rap war going on between probably like 92 through like 94. And a lot of people completely forgot that it happened because a lot of those groups fell off,
Yeah.
So it's hilarious. But it started with Criss Cross, and Criss Cross kind of blew up with Totally Crossed Out. That album is super mediocre. That album is super mediocre.
Yeah, I have that on my Facebook as one of my favorite albums of all time. That was instrumental in the creation of Van Styles. So
well, also
that's
another,
why is that why
another,
I'm mediocre.
Well, no. See, another piece of it is like, how old were you when it came out?
Right. I mean, I was a kid. That was my first concert ever. Was Criss Cross tour with Farside opening, and Dr. Dre and Ed Lover of Yo MTV Raps as the host.
See, that's wild.
What's crazy about that too is I was surprised that you saying they already had the style before they had the label. Like the Criss Cross branding is kind of crazy, but the fact that I didn't know that it was stolen.
Yeah,
I always was like, damn, that's kind of slick how they did that.
Like, think about Tretch says, I'm old loot from Jermaine. Go to Atlanta because Jermaine sells me loot from that Jump shit. And the thing is that the wildest part is that when youngsters came out with their second album, when they had bald heads and they're wearing army gear, their lead single is called was it? I can't remember what the fucking name of the single is, but they're dissing Criss Cross, and it's funny because jump if you want me, Cruise Pop. So it's hilarious because it's produced by KG and written by Tretch. So the story is that Tretch wrote Jump, and then he turned around and wrote the diss track
That's great.
for, you know, the youngsters. And it's crazy because like to jump if you want me. And then on I Gets Busy, Illegal says, write your own rhymes telling Jermaine's life story, I get busy, you know? So there was a kid rap war, and it started with Crisscross.
Before we have to wrap up, is this the 50? Dude, we have all these 50th year hip hop celebrations. I know.
Well, we got some more questions.
Yeah, okay.
We got a couple more questions.
So, is it really the 50th year of hip hop, like, or has everybody got the date wrong?
It depends on who you ask, but I will say one phrase: creation myth. In order for rap and hip hop culture to get accepted and talked about the way it is, you have to have a creation myth. So it's considered an actual real culture. So they picked the date August 11th, 1973. So we had this thing for hip hop all 2023. But if you ask other hip hoppers, they're gonna say actually shit didn't really kick off until 76 when the 12-inch vinyl comes out. Rap kind of kicks off because rap kind of really started as we know it between 76 and 77. Because think about it, hip hop starts in 1973. I was telling you in this car. Think about all the staple hip-hop breaks, the staple hip-hop songs, the DJ spin that B-boys go to the floor for. How many of those songs existed in 73? Not a lot. And the big sticking point is that the 12-inch single that DJs rely on to backspin and cut and use because what you're going to do, use the LP, didn't come out until spring 1976. So hip-hop is the culture we know it. I'd say more 76 to 73, and also I'd say that the big event that made it so hip hop became the culture it was is the Whole Avenue meeting after Black Benji gets killed. I think that happened in December 1971.
Who was Black Benji?
He was a member of the Ghetto Brothers. So the murder of Black Benji starts the entire timeline of what happens with hip-hop culture because that peace treaty opens it up so that different neighborhoods in the Bronx, people can travel back and forth go from Bronx River Projects to here, to here, to here, and have events and have DJ spin and their security.
Wait, hip-hop started with a murder and a treaty?
Sorta.
That's kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, yeah, sorta. I mean, if you go on YouTube and look up Whole Avenue Peace meeting, 1971.
It makes sense. People having parties in neighborhoods and like letting everyone come to the party.
It didn't happen before.
Well, even now, even today, which take hip hop out of it, there's still places I'm sure where like if you're having parties, you have to make sure that things are cleared before people come to these parties because what's going to happen is murders.
This is how hip hop gets the crew.
Yeah, you know,
because it's really a gang. It's really a gang thing. The crew, right? Because if you're going to travel from your area to this area, now you gotta remember, I have a device in my pocket. Your music had to be on records. You had to have crates. You had to have a full turntables. You had to carry turntables. You had your own sound system. Somebody got to carry that sound system. You're not gonna go into a rival gang hood with all that shit without security. Without a whole crew with you. So that's how the crews kind of happen in hip hop. You know, you have the rap group and you have the crew, you know? So they're the Lost Boys. There's the motherfuckers that rap in the Lost Boys. Yeah. And then there's the Lost Boys crew. You know?
You hear about them.
Yeah. So like this starts back in, you know, with hip hop. So that idea isn't too far from, you know, how we get to where we are.
And it's fun. I was listening to MC8 and Big Steel's podcast or a YouTube channel, and they were talking about the first time, because on the West Coast, we want to talk about crews. Mm-hmm. They got actual like gangs back then, and how nobody shouted out a gang on record until DJ Quick on, I don't remember.
Quick is the name?
That might have been it. Yeah.
So, I mean, because the wild part over there, too, is that when you think about like Compton, the people that put Compton on the map was like Compton Posse and Mixmaster Spade back in 86.
Yeah.
And between 86 and 88, they were doing that on record. Like King T, you know, all these other guys were like really big on doing stuff for Compton. But it didn't explode until King T puts out Act the Fool. NWA puts out, you know, NWA and the Posse. And then later, Straight Outta Compton in 89. The album came out in February 89, not August 8th, 1988, you dumbasses.
Thank you.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, that's like numbers that are so ingrained with the beginning of hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 50 years now, like you said, and hip hop's changed a lot. Let's bring it a little more current. Like, is there anyone you're listening to now? Like new people.
I'm listening to a whole lot of stuff now, but I mean, if I had to
Like
think
who?
about local, like I was just saying,
Not even. I'll get to local next, but I'm just saying, just in general, hip hop, right? Because people said that hip hop's changed so much, and someone like a pure old head such as yourself, right?
It's like,
Are
so you
still
ask me what new?
Are you rocking with new heads right now, and who?
Like the young
New
guys?
commercial.
You tell me.
The new commercial? No.
Okay.
No.
Wait, actually,
I couldn't name
anyone.
anybody for you. I
Anyone.
couldn't name anybody for you. I couldn't do
Who's
it.
the newest artist you are rocking with?
I'll probably say somebody that I know locally would be like Nay Speaks, somebody like that.
Hold on, hush.
Funeral Aunt Bell, like
Hush.
those guys.
Can you just, because I don't know them either. Can you just, who's like the top 5 biggest rappers
Little
right now?
Baby.
None of them.
NBA Youngboy.
None of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say NBA Youngboy. Like
None of them.
I wouldn't expect him to know.
I mean, like, who's
You don't listen to
who's
any
someone
of them.
who's like Griselda at all?
Well, Griselda's been around for a minute. You got to remember when Griselda.
I understand.
Yeah,
that.
when Griselda first started coming to Boston, I was at the Middle East.
Yeah.
When you have 30, 40 people there. The next show there's 100. The next show it's.
I was there with you.
Yeah.
The first Griselda.
Yeah. So
Mick Jenkins.
I know of Mick Jenkins.
I just started to listen to Mick Jenkins because of these two guys. He went to a Mick Jenkins show, and then he told me he was good. So I put him on in the car. Guy's fucking good. Guy's good. I fuck with him and a new guy named Lute. Lute. I don't know if you
Well,
guys-
I've been known Lute. Lute's from I don't know. I know Lute through
He's from Newt?
through no. Wait,
What?
wait. No, I know if you're talking about the same Lute, I know Lute through the dudes from Little Brother. I know Lute through rapper Big Pooh from
Maybe. I don't know. I
from
just.
South Carolina. Lute, right?
Yeah, I think
I know.
he's a newer dude because I just discovered him.
I
and it
think
looked-
the first thing I heard from him was like 2018, 2019.
well, that's still newer. Yeah.
yeah.
When did the SoundCloud generation begin?
SoundCloud didn't blow up until between 2014 and 2015. So
What happened in 2012? When did Waka Flocka Flame come out?
Who cares?
I-
but I will tell you the important thing that happened with SoundCloud and Bandcamp was that there were a lot of bloggers that got big heads and thought that they were replacing DJs, which is fucking blasphemous if you're a hip hop head. You will never replace DJs. No algorithm can do what a DJ does. Just can't. So they thought they were the new DJs. They're in print ads and doing all this dumb shit, and they thought they were the gatekeepers. So you send me your music, I tell you if it's important, if it's good, and then I post it. Fuck out of here. What happened was SoundCloud and Bandcamp became these own things where you have your phone, you have your iPod Touch, you just download SoundCloud, you have your SoundCloud stream. People recommend this song for you or a beat for you, you play it, you like it, you add it to your stream. There's no middleman, nothing. So what happened with SoundCloud Rap was a bunch of kids who were on the app, and at the time there's no entry points anymore.
Yeah.
When I'm old again. I'm about to turn 50 in 2025. When I was young, you had to go to a studio. You had to find a studio that had an engineer that did rap, right? You had to have rap equipment. Then you had to pay the money. Then you had to talk to them and do all this other stuff. So there's no entry points where all you gotta do is just download a crack version of a software, go over your boy's house.
Barrier to entry.
There's no barrier.
Yeah.
There's no barrier to entry. So you just go, and you could go on YouTube and see a tutorial for how to make a beat, how to track something out. And everybody, you don't even need equipment. Like you needed a 4-track studio. I had to go to Daddy's Junkie Music. I had to go to EU Wurlitzer down by Berklee College of Music campus to buy just rudimentary equipment, beat making equipment. You can do all this shit in apps on your phone or your handheld device or just from somebody else's.
Doesn't sound as good.
It doesn't sound as good, but the entry point is the barrier
and
is
there's
low.
no soul in it either.
Well, it depends. Some people are good at it, but the barrier entry is low. And I got to remember, there were a lot of people that had equipment and they were fucking trash, and they had to learn how to use it.
So if you don't listen to anyone now that's new,
I mean,
what do you think? What do you think hip hop has to do to get people like yourself back interested in it?
They don't nothing. I'm into hip hop. That's not necessarily hip hop.
Okay.
What people need to understand is that hip hop is music that's made that's influenced by the culture, the wider culture that birthed it. And the people that make it kind of studied the art form and the culture and want to be part of a continuum. Whereas you can make rap at any point that's that uses harmonies, that uses melodies, that doesn't have to be lyrical or necessarily have what we consider substance, and you could just make that. I'm not listening to that.
You're listening to hip hop.
I'm going to listen to rap that is hip hop infused. So if you're asking me like who are the new young guys that like everybody goes crazy for that I listen to, none of them, because that music's not made for me.
What about J. Cole?
Well, J. Cole's been around forever. He's been around since like,
I'm just thinking of somebody who's relevant still.
I mean, yeah, but like also you got to remember J. Cole's been around so long that like when he pops up, like my eyes roll to the back of my head.
Okay,
you know? Like he's been around for like, look how long his dreads are. J. Cole's been around for a minute.
What do you think the worst year for hip hop was?
1981.
How the fuck?
No, dead ass.
No, I know you are.
Because people were hoping that the year that rap was around to make it to 82.
Yeah.
Right? And at the beginning of 82, people were like, oh, we're in trouble. But then Planet Rock comes out. And we're off to the fucking races.
What was the worst year for hip hop after 1990?
Artistically. Yeah, artistically. Is what
artistically?
He's
Yeah.
What's the first year for hip hop?
Yeah.
That's what he's
What's
going
the first
for.
year for hip hop? There's never been a bad year for hip hop. What's a bad year for commercial rap after 1990?
All of them.
I'll probably say 2000 and what year was it that Snap
Oh,
Snap bracelets?
no Snap music.
He's not walking out, but the fucking like the Laffy Taffy. And
Yeah.
shit.
Oh,
that year was when the rise of ringtone rap. When
That was Soulja Boy.
When the beginning of MySpace. So I'd say that for mainstream rap.
I wanna
But
say
as
like
in terms of
2008.
no, it was before that. It was
Before
like
that?
2006-ish.
when
but-
did drill music come out?
that was fucking way
later.
Yeah,
Chief Keef and all that?
Yeah, but I don't ever think of drill. I think of like two-step, UK garage, grime, dubstep. I think of that before I think of drill, because I think of the UK version before whatever popped up over here. And I wasn't listening to Chief Keef or what was KD Got Bands or whoever was out. I wasn't listening to that.
I don't even know what
was
that is.
listening
Yeah, I never heard that
I was-
second one. The
I was
KD
listen-
got bands.
So there's a meme with a girl and she's dancing and she has a gun and she puts it sideways. That's her. So so like I was listening to fucking underground stuff back then. Like I had my own record label. I was putting out vinyl. And I was putting out mixtapes, beat tapes with producers I know.
What do you think is the best year for indie hip hop?
Overall, 1997.
What was it? What was that? Was that Company Flow?
So 1997, because it starts out, it's the divide between the mainstream and the underground, and this is when the underground and the mainstream become two separate entities. And in 1997, what comes out is Company Flow. Oh, Company Flow's Fun Crusher Plus comes out the same day as Puff Daddy and the Family No Way Out.
That's the
Really?
that's
Same
the first
day.
hip-hop album I ever got.
Wow.
Same day.
Wow, Hush.
So
We know which one
so
it's bad.
so we got you have
that album wasn't that bad.
You have Atmosphere, Overcast comes out. You have Late Lyrics, the album comes out on Soul Sides. So this is when Evil D is on the mix. Come on, kick it. Raucus puts out the first Sound Bombing mixtape. So 1997.
Which is where Eminem started, right?
Well, Eminem
was got national on his first nationally released something
between
was
96 and 97. Yeah,
Okay.
because he was on 5-Star Generals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When did Reasonable Doubt come out?
96.
96.
Six, yeah.
What's your thoughts on Eminem?
I think he's one of the all-time great lyricists in hip-hop, but I don't want to hear his albums.
What's your thoughts on Benzino?
Ray Dog,
Yeah.
he's one of the all-time greats in Boston hip-hop, but I don't necessarily want to hear his music.
Did you listen?
I was going to ask you. Hold on.
No. Before you ask, no.
I know he's not.
No, I was going to ask about Made Men, actually.
Oh, yeah, Mayman. So, Crosses Limited Edition.
One in the Chamber.
Well, no, that was RSO.
That's probably going to flip into it. Boston's Mount Rushmore.
I fucking hate Mount Rushmore's because it takes the entire culture and the entire timeline and history of Boston rap, and it kind of sticks it for people. But if we're doing Mount Rushmore and we're talking about just the beginning, and I don't have to think about the entire history of Boston rap, that Mount Rushmore is going to be Almighty RSO, is going to be TDS Mob, it's going to be FTI Crew / 3 Death Notes / Ed O.G. and the Bulldogs, and the last spot's going to be Gangstar / Gangstar Posse.
That's a pretty fucking There's some pretty dope fucking crews in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I got one question before we go. I'm sitting there watching HBO. I'm watching the Charles Stewart case, right? And so this guy's young too. I'm explaining to him how fucking crazy the Charles Stewart case was, how just the entire thing. And I'm watching it with my girl, and all of a sudden I look up and fucking Mr. Dart Adams is on the HBO Charles Stewart documentary. How does something like that happen?
So,
and then give us obviously your opinion on the Charles Stewart. You're going to go into that anyways, but how do you even get approached for that?
I was on Instagram. I get a DM from a guy. He says his name is Jason Heher, and I'm like, that's the guy who made The Last Dance.
Okay.
On ESPN, which
was huge.
Released early, unfinished, people need to remember, online because it was the pandemic. And then the finished version is what aired on ESPN, where people forget. So I saw it multiple times by the time it was out. And
that was the Michael Jordan documentary.
Yes, the Michael Jordan documentary. And it was so well done, and it put so many things into context, and it didn't tell a linear story, and it was so engrossing, and I fucking hate Michael Jordan. And I was just like glued and riveted, and I was just engaged. So I see a DM from him, and I'm like, it's somebody pretending to be him. So I check to make sure it's him. Oh shit, it's actually him. So then I read it, and he's like, yeah, so I'm doing a new project. My project's actually going to be about the Charles Stewart case, and I would like to meet with you to talk about your memories of the case in the case and other things. Just chop it up. He says, I'm in town, because he's from Massachusetts. He says, so I'm in town, and he gives me the dates, and I'm immediately like, oh,
why you?
Well, because I'm Dart Adams.
Yeah.
So
poisonous dart.
So quite literally, the thing is that like in the space of like journalism, music, film, documentary, television, if you're going to make something about Boston, I'm one of the first people that people contact, or I'm one of the people who's like, give me a list of people I need to have involved in this. You need to talk to Dart Adams. So I was like, we need to meet immediately. So we meet, we have lunch or whatever.
Do you know, because he's not from Boston and he's too young. I'm 40. I'm 45, 44, 45. I forget how fucking old I am. I'm old though.
Wow.
I remember the Charles Stewart case. Do you know the Charles Stewart case?
No, I do not.
And you don't, so you didn't see the documentary?
No.
And
oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's
that's wild.
Yeah. So
I know about it an hour
I
ago, so
kind
learned
of gave a brief him like a quick synopsis on it, but you have to. So the Charles Stewart case, if you don't mind me just giving a quick, you're going to go in way more depth than I am. It was upper class white guy went to Roxbury and said a black guy killed his wife in the car. He ended up killing his wife, which came out like weeks later. But the Boston police went like on a fucking manhunt through the city and arrested like hundreds of black dudes and beat the shit out of like more black dudes, leaving them like in alleys. And it was crazy.
What year?
1989.
And then the guy,
1990.
about 2 weeks later, it came out that he killed his wife and he jumped off the fucking Tobin Bridge, killed himself. Yeah, it's fucking, so
wow.
There's a documentary on HBO about that, which is phenomenal, by the way.
So when I'm talking to Jason,
I gotta watch this.
So when I was talking to Jason about the approach for it, I said very specifically, I watched this documentary about the Boston Red Sox, and it talked about fucking reversing the curse, and the only black person I saw in the entire documentary was my boy Howard Bryant talking about why black people didn't like going to Fenway Park. And he was in the documentary probably for a good minute, and then they didn't talk to any other black or Latino person in Boston and Massachusetts about baseball. I'm a Gen Xer. We grew up baseball crazy. There were 3 baseball diamonds in my neighborhood alone. Between the black and Latino kids, everybody was in love with baseball. We turned on channel 38, watched all the Red Sox games. We would get the Sunday Globe, and they would have like all the farm teams and all their stats, and we would read all of them, memorize Elmira, Pawtucket, New Britain. Like we were just baseball, and baseball cards were huge, right? So I'm like, I watched that, and they had no black and Latino folks in there, so people who see Boston don't know we exist. Then they do an ESPN documentary. It's called Celtics versus Lakers, the best of enemies. And the only representation we get is when Magic Johnson said that a dude from Roxbury came up to him and said, we don't even root for the Celtics. We root for y'all. And I was like, they didn't think to find any black Celtics fans or black Bostonians.
I thought that same thing when I saw that.
To actually, give a different take on that.
I know black people that like the Celtics in Boston. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, so like we live and die by that shit.
Yeah,
like we only wear Celtics gear.
It's weird.
Yeah. So and I was like, and nobody vetted, nobody thought. I was like, okay. So then I talked about there was something else that happened and like nobody was contacted. And I said, if you do this documentary, you have to tell it from the perspective of all the black and Latino folks in inner city Boston who knew this story that Charles Stewart gave was bullshit from day one, would read the paper and be like, he's lying, and would be at the barbershop, he's lying, at the basketball court, this is bullshit, none of this is adding up. And I was like, that has to be the story, and you have to center black Boston in this thing because all the harm was done to us.
Yeah.
And we've never got our opportunity to tell the story because whenever it's told, it's always like, this is what happened to poor black Boston, and we never get to be the hero of our own story. We never get to frame anything our way. So that has to be the first thing. He was like, that's why I came to you. And we sat down and we talked and he fleshed stuff out. He went to the Boston Globe. They had similar ideas. And so they had the podcasts that tell the full story as aside from like as a compendium to the docuseries. And there's 3 episodes that tell the story, bam, bam, and then the third part. And that's how I got involved. And I sat down probably for my interview, maybe it was less than 3 hours long. And I was surprised at how much what made it the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, you're in there a good amount.
Yeah, I was surprised. But I will say that the best thing is that Howard Bryant really got to put everything into full context in the final episode. They didn't need me for the final episode. I was just like, yeah, Howard, just bring this shit home. But the other part about it is crazy is that they do the HBO Max commercial. And they were airing the HBO Max commercial during All-Star Weekend. And I'm in that motherfucker. So my phone is doing the Harlem Shake. People all over the country like, hey, yo, I just saw you on TV. I'm like, why? I'm at CVS. Like, I have a bag of chips in my hand. What the hell are you talking about? But when I watch the All-Star game at home, I see it. And I put up a joint on Instagram. I was like, that's me. Like, live watching it. Yeah. That shit blew my mind. But, yeah.
That's dope, man. That's dope.
Now you're a celeb.
Well, it's going to really be crazy after the Boston Celtics docuseries comes out.
Oh yeah,
there's gonna be a Boston Celtics.
Aren't they? They're following them this season, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're following this. They're following the Celtics this season.
I'm involved in that, so yeah.
In this season, the Celtics. I don't know if these guys would know. The Celtics are by far the best team in the league right now, and they're just running away with it. And they're the out favorites.
Scores are like crazy. Like they actually broke a record. It was like the first. I don't correct me wrong, but something about like the first season any NBA team has beat people by like 50 points.
Three times
in a month. It was 3 times. They did it in a month. Yeah, it was a whole bunch of shit that they're doing right now. So that's pretty dope. So it's going to be basically the Last Dance, but the Celtics version. Something.
It's something like that because as you know who's involved. You know, the Boston sports guy is involved. So
who are we alluding to?
I don't know who he wants to say, but I know that in Boston sports, like they're all just doomers. It's kind of the worst.
Yeah, this part is one of the worst things, man. Because I try to explain to people, if you're gonna be a Boston sports fan, you should be made of the same material as the black box in the plane, right? You don't live and die on the fucking end of each season because you're going to be back next year. Like the Red Sox, they're going through whatever, but I'm going to be at fucking Fenway Park regardless. The Celtics fall short. They fall short. I'm going to be back because I don't think they're going to fall short this season. I think they have the right roster. I think they have the right team. I think the coach has finally figured out some things that he didn't know his rookie season, and I think that they're going to get it done this year. But, like, regardless, I'm a Celtics fan anyway because what am I going to do? Fucking be a fan of a player like people that are fans of LeBron James that follow that motherfucker around like he's the Grateful Dead?
That's weird.
Like, that's weird.
It's weird.
That's weird.
They do that shit. It's weird. Jaquan, I see you out there, motherfucker. Fuck it. Nah, my boy is always on that shit. But who's the sports dude that no one likes?
Jesus Christ.
It's not Felger, is it?
No.
See that face? Yeah,
no,
right.
he's a writer. He runs The Ringer.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
Simmons.
Bill Simmons.
All right.
I can't fucking stand that
Yeah.
guy. But he's a necessary evil.
He's also part of the Celtics lore and shit too.
Yeah, he's a necessary evil.
That's what it is. Fucking all right. Do you want to tell the camera right here where they can find you? This one right there.
So, Dart Adams, Dart_Adams. I was on Twitter. Fuck Twitter. Too many MAGA people. Too many. Elon ran that shit to the ground. I hope it dies. I'm on Blue Sky. If you're not a journalist, you're not gonna want to be on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram at Dart_Adams. You can find me on dartadams.com. That has a list of everything I've ever done and links to everything. What am I doing? Oh, Mathematic Athletics is the website to buy Boston Legends gear, throwback jerseys, shorts, uniforms, apparel, merch. We're going to start putting out shorts again in the spring going into the summer. I think the next set of shorts we're going to do green and white shorts for the South End because we already have orange and black Roxbury, and we have black and white for Dorchester. And those are crazy. We have jerseys, throwback jerseys for Northeastern University, Reggie Lewis. We have Zavarian. We know the number's supposed to be 10 and not 11. Shut up. For Dana Barrows. We have a high school joint for Durfee for the homie. So we did that. That was big. Chris Herron. Salute Chris Herron and the Chris Herron Foundation. And we have some other joints that we're going to be doing in the spring. Hopefully we get Scooney Penn on board to do his high school jersey for Salem. It's not gonna say witches on the shorts. It's gonna say Salem because no, we're not doing that. We want to do a joint for rest in peace Jamal. Jamal passed away. He was at Cleveland State. He should have been able to make the NBA. He was killed in Boston before he was able to make the trip back to Cleveland to finish out his college career. We were gonna do a joint for who is the other person? I know we want to do a Monty Mac one. We want to do a Randall Jackson one. So, Wayne Turner at Beaver Country Day, the Mariners. That joint's gonna be crazy. So we're gonna get back into that. So mathematicathletics.com. If you go to that website, you'll see some nice gear. And also, we just released a by any means necessary collection for Malcolm X. Again, Malcolm X, one of the favorite sons of Roxbury. A whole lot of spots in my neighborhood you could just point to that he used to hang out at. So salute to Petta and Milk. You might know him. He's had 4 Boston before we switched over to what it is now. When we created the Boston Legends. We created Boston Legends. So you see people on the street walking around thinking that it means something else. I'm the motherfucker who's the voice of Boston Legends. Me. Who put this thing together? Me, that's who. So I just love to say that. But that's basically it. If you just put in Dart Adams, you'll find me all over the place. I do a lot of writing.
And a lot of correcting people.
Yeah, it's a necessity.
3 Feet High and Rising.
3 Feet High and Rising was released February 7th, 1989, not March 3rd, 1989, just for one thing. And also, again, I already said straight out of Compton.
Oh, and finally, what's your favorite album out of Boston?
My favorite all-time album out of Boston, not necessarily for quality reasons, but for its importance, is Edo G and the Bulldogs' Life of a Kid in the Ghetto. My favorite all-time rap album out of Boston in terms of just like, I think, importance after that. That's a good question. I think an underrated album is In the Company of Killers by the Wise Guys, which was supposed to be out on Def Jam. It never happened. It got put out on Surrender Records instead. I think that's one. But damn, that is a tough one. I think another one is probably The Truth Hurts at OG in 2001. I think that's when that album came out. I think that's one that a lot of people really sleep on. So Ed OG's kind of got a sweep, on that one.
That's what's up, man. Van, what do you want to tell these guys right now?
Like and subscribe. We got Dart Adams on the Big Dookie Chain with myself, Van Styles, Tash, and Hush behind the cameras.
Fuck Kurt Schilling.
Yeah, fuck Kurt Schilling. Absolutely.
Sense lives.
We got
Marty
an agreement.
forever. Peace.